So it's important to invoke bride at the beginning of any bardic ceremony. Here comes the bride, she who cannot be denied. Through winter's baleful veil she gazes, and here comes the bride. Here comes the bride, with candles on her head, new life springing from the dead, virgin maiden to be wed, hope in darkness's ebb. Here comes the bride, she is pregnant with the light, and springtime's fertile seed, on humble knee I beg, please give me what I need. Here comes the bride to fill my mind with sacred vision, a fire for my head and my pencil filled with lead. My mouth with words is fed, and here she comes again, and all my pasts are dead. Here comes the bride in her lunar wedding gown, and a club beside the bed. If the ashes hold the print come morn, then the summer's sun be red. Come, clean your house for preparation for the coming of the bride. May naked maidens fill the streets, whipped by priests in goat hair hides. Here comes the bride, her face obscured by the light, shot through with beams of lunar love, patron of poet's sight. The Mary of the Gale returning, ghostly form in white. Please come fill my goddess yearning and put my vision right. All hail the bride, stepping out of ancient past, but sprung eternal from the spiral that coils from first to last. All doubt aside, you flotsam to the burning. Stack the pyres and light the fires. The year is finally turning. This time we rise and burn our inner refuse, letting glorious light return, enlightening all our issues. Here is the bride, belly waiting for the seed. Give up your vows, give up your words, give up your worn-out creeds. Let lightning strike from your tongue every time you speak, and step into the bridal chamber and find the love you seek. Here is the bride. Your spirit she will quicken, transform your heart from hate to love, and all your plots shall thicken. Thank you. And where is Jim Tom when he is gone?
A confession, this is not. It's designed to tell you what you've got, but not doing while you have the chance. Okay, so I confess, I dance this dance. Avoid the point and go off track to avoid the inevitable, because that is that. What's done is done, what's lost is won. A prize, a gift, taken only by choice. And I use it here, in voice. In verb and word and lyrical ramblings, yet everyone's still hiding, gambling, wishing or pissing their lives away when there's something more to say. To do, to be, and do it before we leave this planet. God damn it. Don't forsake your chance of living, the chance to be the one giving instead of receiving. You all have the gift, and what's the point if you keep buttoned lips and never talk? Sewed shut and trying to speak a perfect lie with backstabbing teeth. A stab in the back for yourself and no one else if you don't have the joy of being the one making the fun for each and every human being. Seeing is believing, and if you believe this, then I'm no longer the fool. Saying words that don't mean anything, nothing at all. Talking to the mirror and it only repeats as I get lost in the flow and lose the beat. But retreat is not an option, and now I've started this notion. I need no pill or potion to tell you there's an ocean, not the sea you see, but a depth of art. And that's what I try and live with inside my heart. But sometimes you must let go and the grip slips on this, the tip of the iceberg, the mountaintop. Don't worry, I'm about to stop going on speaking and not meaning or avoiding the message. I can't help it, I get lost in the language. Will you take from these few words that I'm trying to infer, not to sound soft or weak or feeble or sappy, just do the things that make you happy.
And thank you all that have taken part. So just a little poem to give you an idea before we start. Do mar, God and the greatness of it. Do mar. Does it matter? By the pixie gold of moonshine it does. The cockle shell heroes of dove defence in the land. Set striations, alluvial and sedimentary local layers, like my guest partaken feast of a Spanish omelette of the freshest, free-rangest laid eggs in the Dodford Northants tradition. Deposit 4 eggshells and the emperor's clothes. Shy at night, you see. All raving has but to completely depose. Sister in mercy, comrade, elf dancer, kith and kin kissing cousins lay about me with bootstrap lashing forward in thy motion. Pull up, get on with the natural born advantages of a king of the jacks, of the green, a queen of the Dingley Dell, half-mad happenstance of the sun heat that hopefully shines. Lammas harvest, Lunasabi bold, rhythm bold, take your time, bobcat wild of the Celtic diaspora, natural flora, natural fauna, naked as the slake of morn times, skin on skin, be divine. And as I did say to the neighbour, and as he did say to me, if my guitar gets too loud, I'll tell you to turn down your TV. Thank you, I'm Jim Tom.
Sweat is dripping from your nose, but you're still so attractive. Your hair's gorgeously greasy. You're a delightful dinosaur. It's hot in here. I'm so sweaty. I like your smell black shirt. Your shoes are nice and shiny. You're soggy but so pretty. What should we do, you decide? It's hot in here. I'm so sweaty. And sometimes like the sun, and sometimes like the moon, and sometimes like the sun, and sometimes like the moon, and sometimes like the sun, and sometimes like the moon. And sometimes like the sun, and sometimes like the moon. It's hot in here. I'm so sweaty.
the living is easy. Fish are jumping and the cotton is high. Oh, your daddy is rich and your ma is good looking. So hush, little baby, don't you cry. One of these mornings you're going to rise up singing. Then you spread your wings and you take to the sky. But till that morning, there's nothing can harm you. With daddy and mommy standing by. Summertime, summertime.
My Uncle Joe was in the First World War, and he told me that he was running along on the front. I can't imagine what the conditions must have been like. And he jumped into a dugout for safety, only to find a German already in there. And he was so frightened, he scrambled up the sides to get away, while the equally scared German went the other way. It was only after he'd been running for some time that he realised in his haste he'd dropped his rifle and lost it. He was a lovely man, and I sometimes helped him when I visited him in his gatehouse home, as he spent most of his life as a gardener and a handyman in a country mansion. Anyway, long afterwards, when he died, we found this poem, which was written by him in 1913, shortly before the start of the First World War. On visiting my native village. 'Tis now the leaves of tree and bush their autumn hues display, and birds their song of love have ceased to pour forth by the way. As wandering where my steps in youth the brambleberries sought, sweet memories of my boyhood days back to my mind are brought. Here, where in June the wild rose blooms, cast sweetness on the air, now shine the whitening crimson hips, the feathered songsters fair. Here too the winged hosts of spring rejoice in sunny days, and to the moon the nightingale pours forth his songs of praise. These hedgerows, banks and fields, where wild nature doth run free, and countless dew-tipped flowers open their petals to the sun. But winter will each tree and bush in frost and snow array, and on this reed-encircled pool its icy hand will lay. Yet when the breeze blows from the south, the sun shines twixt the showers, then all around will smile again with bees and flowers and honey and flowers. Oft have I roamed these fields which now I view with lingering gaze, and by yon silent brook the winds through leafy ways. And as my wandering steps I trace through scenes I love so well, thoughts of mingled joy and sadness in my mind doth dwell. Farewell to thee, scenes of my youth, the time has flown too fast. These memories of the past will be dearly held to the last.
so glad you came, bringing nightmares to remain. You're the only one who could take away my son. Can't take away my love for him, take away my love. Can't take away my love for everyone. Ooh.
Let's go up to the hill where the flowers still grow, to our kings and our queens buried long, long ago. If we follow the brook just an hour or so, I'll kiss you when we reach the top. Let's catch a rabbit, let's catch a hare. I'll wrestle a lion, I'll wrestle a bear. Let's catch a rabbit, let's catch a hare, before sunset beckons us home. Let's go down to the vale where the river does flow, where the battle of hearts began long, long ago. Took the blood of the men and the tears of the girls, in peace may we never forget. Let's catch a rabbit, let's catch a hare. I'll wrestle a lion, I'll wrestle a bear. Let's catch a rabbit, let's catch a hare, before sunset beckons us home. And now eventide replaces the sun, and stars far above smile down on our fun. My heart is content and at rest in my breast. Let's follow the day home to bed. Let's catch a rabbit, let's catch a hare. I'll wrestle a lion, I'll wrestle a bear. Let's catch a rabbit, let's catch a hare, before sunset beckons us home.
What do we do with our old folk? Treat them with respect. Sit and listen with interest to the lives that they have led. What do we do with our old folk? Keep them warm and feed them well. Visit them often and enjoy the moments they remind you of yourself. What do we do with our old folk? The ones who've paid and paid, make them huddle together and live cold and afraid. What do we do with our old folk in this richest country? We cut their day-to-day care in renounced accountability. What do we do with our old folk, the wise and proud of our land? We add to their humiliation to die without a sound. What do we do with our old folk in this civilised land we call home? We simply draw the curtains and never spare the time.
Brought up in the gutter with a stutter and a stammer in the utter filth of the manor, the estate, this council slum. My mum did her best but was overcome with the fumes she assumed was safe and sound. Every pound going in the pipe made my life a wreck. Check what I say. It didn't happen that way. Mum was a nurse and Dad was a welder. Gave the best they could. I should have turned out quite good, but instead my head went west of centre. Entered a place that I wouldn't suggest a dog be chained. Gained a paranoia that I just can't shake. They didn't make me this way, I did. They didn't tell me what to think and what to say. Not this kid. School had rules for the fools to follow, but not me. I didn't swallow their lies. Surprised myself when my mental health cracked under the pressure. Unless to fit the mould, you're told you're wrong. And unless you're strong, the songs of your youth become the truth you believe. Deceived by punk and the junk they spouted. Recently, and with help, I've come to doubt it. In 10 years' time, I'll be a decade older. And I'll look back over my shoulder to today and say, what the fuck was I thinking, linking all these words together? Being clever, never letting up. I'm not rolling in clover. And when it's over, there'll be the remnants of a man. Understanding that without a plan to follow, I'm just wallowing. Borrowing from the past and not looking ahead. Instead of growing, I'm flowing with the tide. Just along for the ride when inside I'm dying. Trying to express the fear. Trying to stay near to sanity. Vanity is the enemy, but without it, I can't be who I pretend to be. There's a beginning, but no end to me. Not floating free. What you see is just a tip. Beneath there is a mast that could sink the ship I'm sailing and leave me flailing like I'm drowning. Half the time I'm clowning, the other half I'm frowning. Sounding off, not rounding the edges, but sharpening the mind. Climbing to some kind of summit. Praying I don't plummet down to earth. For what it's worth, this verse, this document I'm cursed to write at 3 o'clock on this Thursday night is my life, and you are welcome to it.
I am hunger, I am thirst, where I bite, I hope till I die, and even after death they must cut out my mouthful from my enemy's body and bury it with me. I can fast 100 years and not die. I can lie 100 nights on the ice. I can drink a river of blood and not burst. I can swallow the river of tears. I'll drink yours first. Show me your enemies. Oh, show me your enemies. I can fast 100 years and not die. I can lie 100 nights on the ice. I can drink a river of blood and not burst. I can swallow the river of tears. I'll drink yours first. Show me your enemies. Oh, show me your enemies. Oh, your enemies. Oh. Thank you.
So here we go. Leaving the campers asleep and the caravanners smugly snug, I stretched out onto the road ahead. The grey hills covered in a blanket of cloud, neatly edging the Quran hairpins and peat bogs. The summer sun pierced the sky and spotlighted the white crofts, serving B&B to hopeful southerners who looked out anticipating Munros and eagles. But hopes were dashed as horizontal rain splashed the moors, drenching all. Recently shaved sheep chewed the lush grass, and they moved quickly as I lumbered past to the boulder-strewn beach. The winter gales blew the rain, whipping the sea, bullying me, tugging me, laughing at my efforts to beat the elements, to turn back time, and keep alive the mind's eye image of youth. A warm spring breeze rippled the bracken and rustled the reeds, caressing my face, blow-drying my hair, and renewing my strength. And as the sun breaks through, I quickened my pace until, reaching the still, quiet campsite, my soul sang out at the variety, the never a dull moment feeling of this misty isle.
Okay, so this song goes with the poem. And the poem was set in Scotland, and this is a Scottish lullaby, an old folk Scottish lullaby called Hushabye Birdie. Hushabye birdie, croon, croon. Hushabye birdie, croon. The sheep have gone to their silver wood. They'll not be home till noon, noon, noon. They'll not be home till noon. Brabit is milking the kye, kye. Brabit is milking the kye. The birds are singing, the bells are ringing, the wild deer come galloping by, by, by. The wild deer come galloping by. Hushabye birdie, croon, croon. Hushabye birdie, croon. The sheep have gone to the silver wood. They'll not be home till noon, noon, noon. They'll not be home till noon. Okay. The hummingbird tree has naught to offer but a total eclipse of the moon. The scudding clouds, the painted crowds, the many-faced loon. Eager echoes soon to falter. The fool will have her strength as employment slowly dwindles and the blacklegs have their day. Chandeliers of daisies, august in a half-closed door, as monumental pansies establish our ship's roles, and half gigantic feasting remains of a chainsaw's brew, polite in conversation, but a kiss that's never through. 420 virgins as I crouch neath frosted stair. A conversation with the moon, my darling, whenever you're not there, whenever you're not there. The hummingbird tree is naught to offer, but total eclipse of the moon. The scarring clouds, the painted crowds, a many-faced loom, a many-faced loom.
Sing, choirs of angels. Blessed are those in the last days, the drawing down of blinds, irregenerate privation or displacement, the binary codot burns into and out through, and our mother's blood, earth's hacked up veins, a stolen artery. There is no art to deliberation. Plunder, what gain? To have the Gaia magic grazed beyond protection. Subtle, nuanced secret is moto. Disgraced violet, virgin, verger, poor charity bomb. Adil, ado, they know. A half-est martyr is no more than an innocence of sorrow. Despotics destroy dreams, which to a wildebeest are life and fear when captured, enough suffering for a lifetime, even if next day at cycled distance the timorous beastie is given to release. Ensconcement, subhume, variegated difference, leaf strand, separateness, divine, thy diffidence of a vow newly complete. Stand fast on the merriment, how gently do the birds take up their song when all disturbance, mortal temporality subsides with the falling echo of a spinning feather, windfall, fragile veined relief, sustenance of moonbeams, the to which I pray, an unpeopled planets communing, vibrating, resolving, and resolute, more permanent as life forms in the eon, traversing hiatus of its change, communication like a season to a decanted minute within the crystalline, so dark that almost beyond light beats roots, an uninviting staple, agribusiness grown mere token of constituent gruel, yet more than surface earth connection, refusal of price by purgative rejection. Bring back something useful like yourself. Take the harder road, walk apart, enough to know your own mind. Take the time to perspect, value, reflect the beauty of miracle that is life. As ice flows melt, there come a time again for watchers on the shore. In a landscape void of growth, rocks, moisture, crumbled dust of tree and earth, when humanity hits its overload, star troopers with their shaman ways will hold the surviving regenesis to its course. Say, fing the Saskatchewan bruin, thick matted wedge running folds of chestnut brown, long, dry, dusty fur. Don't wait for bullet holes, dunny down, waste of locking holes, pin down, nut, chest, air, only the grey squirrels around to say hello. When is good morrow? Does your Semtex come in bunny-sized or poucho? 50 grams buys a donut, but the seizure is in the rig. Fodder, flax and freglinasa, high Zion, the sunrise, new moon day, predictor of the weather. I nix the state of lust, all inns, tents and poor voices, the fruit of enhanced pro 4 months, lightened up sealed sill, sacrifice in hardened wood, once kernel, now a pre-powered, packed, latent warmth, Yule cheer, hissed, mouldering, slumber, waking, he congealed in the early morning, initiate to the rites of womanhood, in volante, nocte, seminal, precognate sex, vision quest, still pulsing in the blackness, stena, energy, inception, spark, this light, this thy light ignites, the purest of thy flame, my fire bright in your art, elven, loon, gentle, say.
Unexpected fruit. It stopped me in my tracks, the perfect sphere, constructed from a myriad of smaller, tightly packed orbs, a fly's eye of a fruit, branching out across my busy path, on the way to a meeting, almost already running late, when perfect purple perfection interrupted my haste. Each plumptious, rotund, full, ready to burst segment, skin-tight, sunlit, telling autumn was here, had arrived without announcement. It could not already be that time of year. Upon seeing my first ripe blackberry.
Writer's words, the unheard poem now heard. Freedom speech of those who choose to listen. Lost are those who hear the voice in the distance. Crazy times are experience of crazy minds, it's perspective. One chooses to feel love or to feel rejected. In healing yourself you can heal the earth, connected, like light on water reflected. Life is sometimes calm, sometimes hectic. Experience the highs and lows, expect it. Love and live for now, no fear, no worries, no bounds. My kings and queens, we have now been crowned. To live and work for the people, to teach no divide, no separation, for we are equal. For love, my friends, is universal. We are the children, the elders, the merciful.
My mind amazed complexity. Separate fact and fantasy. For what is real and what is not. The boundaries changing constantly. I cannot be what I am not. I will not do as others say. I'll live for me, my life, my time, or I will wish it all away. But now I find dreams can come true. In part for now, if not in full. And in my waking dreams, I'll find the part of me I've left behind. I'll wake the child that lies inside. No longer will my feelings hide. So recognize the sanctity, the living essence that is me.
Wow! Oh my God, man, and girls so fine up in here. Baby, I see you move and sway. Baby, you remind me of a summer's holiday. Baby, I just love the way that you come and play.
So I set out to the jazz bar.
And I take a seat at the table with the smoky aroma around, you know. Got my suit on and my cigarette and I'm blowing it out loud. See the girl in a red dress and the sweet aroma of her perfume. And she looks at me and I said, give me a spotlight of the jazz keys.
I said, baby, I love the way you swing and sway, baby. I love the way you move and now, baby, you drive me so crazy today. I love the way that you swing and sway when you dance and pray with me and look into my eyes when I hold up your lips and I come up fly.
Would you like to come home with me late at night, light up some candles and make love? Or would you like to bang on the table and make some drums?
Lady, can I make you fly? Said lady,
would you want to put a ring on my finger and why? Because I don't do red wine, but I'll give you a glass of rosé and a steak. Rawr.
Funk and blues, and jazz and swing when I play. I got the blues and the funk and soul. Would you swing with me today? Lady, I love the way you play. Lady, wanna come and dance and sway.
It's a bit cheesy, isn't it, really?
Tear me down when I see them bass line them hit. With the double bass and the hitting of my heartstrings, guitar strings move like this. When the drum is in the back and the bass kicks in, with the snare against my eyes gleaming at the girl that I start to sing. Strings and play nights, them hitting high. I wanna take her outside and make her mine. Lady, would you come and dance with me? Lady, I love the way that you move in the wind when I'm down at the jazz bar in Soho, getting up the train and I'm going down to Northampton town. How bizarre. I will meet you in Buddies around about 6, please. I'll get you a nice Coca-Cola with no ice, please. I'll make sure it's sugar-free. 'Cause I said, lady, I won't take you to Molly's, and I definitely won't take you to MB's. I won't take you to Revolutions, it's too expensive for me. I might take you to the Wig and Pen, or possibly the Old Bank, or might come down to the Racecourse sitting in the back, and give you the left hand. From pints of the beer from across the shop, they're only £1. To make it look like I've got more money, and she thinks I'm fucking sound. I said I'd take you to my place, it's not very clean, but I've made the bedroom especially nice and Febreze just for the lady. Would you come and love me? I said, lady, do you want to feel my blues with me? 'Cause I love the way the double bass and play with the guitar strings and my heart then pump. Bust out the drums and kick when the bass and the heart then starts to thump. See them a snare when they glisten in my eye when you know them and kick me in mind. Look at the girl when I'm trying to give her my next chat up line. Lady, would you be my lady? Then unfortunately the story never actually ended really happy. She wasn't very impressed and she left me the next Saturday. It was slightly messy when I woke up Sunday, ran out of Kleenex. Didn't have no more water in my eyes, they were red raw, and I said I wasn't smoking, Mr. Officer. I met this girl 2 nights ago, I took her on a date and it went tits up, and I said please, you must understand and know. He took me to the jail cell and there she was. She was one of them pigs, she set me up because I put her off. I said, lady, don't be my baby. I'm better off alone. I look more handsome when I'm not stressed than sitting at home. When I'm waiting for the dinner that I haven't cooked and she's kicking my ass and I'm understood. And the people them scaring, I'm being put a ring on the finger and I'm bloody glad. She was 5-0 when I'm a raver and it wouldn't gone too half bad.
That's it for the jokes and the animosity of humour. That was my lovely jazz funk one with just the jib top.
There was once upon a time a witch with one eye. Now, perhaps not surprisingly, she was called Witch One Eye. Not very imaginative, I know, but that was her name. And for some reason, one day she developed a sudden craving to eat an elf. She'd heard how juicy, how tasty, how nice they were. Perhaps she'd heard all the talk about elf foods. Maybe those people over at Daily Bread, have been talking to her. And she needed to try out some elf foods. So she needed to go and get an elf. And where better to get some elf foods than up on the racecourse where all those umbrella fair people were gathering with all their eco this and eco that. So if there was going to be any elf foods around to be had in Northampton, it was going to be on the racecourse on the day of the umbrella fair. So that's where she went. And she prepared herself because she knew up on the racecourse there was one fairy in particular called Fairy Jip. And he was all to cherries. And so she found a sack which would, do as a cherry sack. And she thought this would be a way to catch this fairy so that she could have her elf foods. Are you following it so far? Okay. Right, so off she set up the hill as I've come up the hill today, up the Kettering Road, to the racecourse, to the lovely umbrella fair, and then she went to the home, to the abode of Fairy Jip. She knocked on his door, sustainably sourced timber, of course, and she had her cherry sack ready. And the door opened, because this is a story, all doors in stories creak, so if you could give me a nice creak. Hello! It was Fairy Jip. What do you want? Which one? Well, I've got a nice sack here full of cherries, and I know how much you like cherries. Very Jip, he loved cherries. He loved all kinds of cherries. He loved merino cherries. He loved bird cherries. He loved glazed cherries. He loved virgin cherries, whatever they are. He loved all kinds of cherries, cocktail cherries. Oh, he loved cherries. Any chance he got, he had cherries. So when Which One Eye said that she had a sack full of cherries, well, he was drawn in hook, line and sinker. He wasn't the brightest fairy on the racecourse, and so he fell for this ruse, and he went straight inside her sack. And as soon as he was inside, she closed it up good and tight. She had caught him. She had her elf food. Oh, and so she went back down the hill thinking about all the nice dishes she could prepare with this little elf struggling away inside her. But then she realised she'd forgotten some very important ingredients. She needed to go and get some celebrity food ingredients. You know, they're very popular these days. And so she had to leave the sack just for a moment to go off and get these celebrity food ingredients. There happened to be a woodcutter passing at that time, somebody who chopped wood, chop. And so she asked the kindly woodcutter, would you look after my sack while I go and get some celebrity food ingredients? Well, the woodcutter kindly agreed, and so off she set to find her Jamie Olives and her Nigella Ramsons and the like. And while she was off finding her ingredients, feeling very pleased with herself, thinking about that lovely elf food meal that she was going to create later that night, you know what happened? Fairy Jip, inside the sack, started to talk to the woodcutter. Hello? Woodcutter looked around, didn't know where the voice had come from. Hello, I'm inside the sack. Then he realised there was a voice, there was something inside the sack. It was Fairy Jip. Fairy Jip said to the woodcutter, let me out, and I'll make sure you get some good chopping. The woodcutter thought about this, and then he agreed. And so he let Fairy Jip out of the sack, but the little fairy, sometimes he was brighter than at other times, and at this point it was quite clever. He gathered a load of thistles together, and he put them inside the sack, so it seemed as though the sack was full with elf food. Okay, nice and bulgy, sort of elf-shaped. And so he left the woodcutter, he left the sack full of thistles, and he flitted away, because fairies like to flit. Is anybody here flitted? You look like you like a good flit. I like a good flit myself. I flutted all the way up here from Strood today on my little fairy motorbike. Good for flitting about, I tell you. And so off he flitted. Which One Eye came back with her celebrity chef ingredients. Rubbing her hands, she thanked the kindly woodcutter and went on her way, thinking, oh, this sack of elf food is feeling a bit prickly on my back. But she kept going until she got back to her place, a hag shack, because that's where witches live, of course. And she went inside to prepare her food. And she thought, first of all, I'm going to make sure this sack isn't as bristly. I think maybe it's his bones or his pointy ears or his nose or something is sticking out, and I don't want that to stick in my craw. And so I'm going to give it a bashing with a rolling pin. So she got her rolling pin, made from sustainably sourced timber, of course, and she gave it a good bash, until she had a nice sack. And she opened the sack, expecting to see some pulped elf. But instead, all she saw was a load of broken thistles. She was furious. Smoke poured out of her ears. That Fairy Jip had tricked her. Well, she wouldn't be deprived of her elf foods because she'd heard they were good for you. And so she decided to try it again. She went back up to the racecourse to where the umbrella fair was on for another day. And she thought she'd try again with her cherry sack ruse. Because, you see, Fairy Jip wasn't the smartest elf on the block. And he fell for it. He fell for it a second time, opened the door. Which One Eye was there with the sack. The cherry sack full of nice, juicy, ripe, organic cherries. He could not resist, and so into the sack he went. She tied it up good and proper, and she had him again. She could have her elf food dinner after all. And so she went back down the hill thinking about all the nice dishes she would create, but Drat, she forgot her celebrity chef ingredients again. And, the same thing happened. She left the sack with a stone cutter who was happening to be passing by. A lot of stone cutters pass up and down the Kettering Road. Haven't you seen them? I've seen them all the time, bumping into them with their hods or whatever it is they have, stone cutting implements. She left the sack with the stone cutter and went off to find her ingredients. Her, Gordon, Tabasco and Delia, Pith and all those celebrity chef ingredients. While she was off, that tricky little elf, Fairy Jip, he had a talk to the stonecutter. Hello. The stonecutter looked around. Hello, I'm inside the sack. The stonecutter looked down and realised there was somebody in the sack. Let me out the sack, and I'll make sure you get some nice stone to cut. The stonecutter thought about this, and he agreed. He let Fairy Jip out of the sack, but before Fairy Jip flitted off, as he was wont to do, he made sure that sack was filled up with nice, good rock, and it was tied up good and proper, so it looked like a kind of elf shape, and he fluttered away. And then, which one high she came back? She came back with her celebrity chef ingredients. Remember what they were? Gordon, Tabasco, Delia, Pith, and the like. She came back, she took the sack, she went back down the hill to her hag shack, thinking all the good things she was going to make with this lovely elf food. But when she got back into her shack, into the kitchen, opened the sack, lo and behold, it was full of rocks. She was not happy. This time, smoke poured out of her nostrils too. But she wouldn't be deprived of her elf food. She did want to develop elf food deficiency. And so, vitamin elf. And so she went back up the hill. She went back to the racecourse where the umbrella fair was happening for a third day. Unprecedented, I know, but this was a special brolly bash. And so it was going on for a third day. But this time, Witch One Eye, she had a plan. She had a cunning plan, a better plan than the previous plan anyway. This time she would disguise herself as a milkmaid, and to make this disguise convincing, she had a churn, because of course all milkmaids have churns, and she walked in the vicinity of the race course, in the vicinity of Fairy Jip's abode, and there, in a sort of nonchalant, casual manner, she bumped into him as he was walking to the beer tent, flitting to the beer tent, shall I say, and she feigned concern. She said, "Which one I?" No, sorry. She said, "Fairy Jip." She'd obviously had some of that beer herself. "Fairy Jip, you better watch out, because old Reynard is about. Old Reynard the fox is about, that wily fox, and you know how much he likes to eat small fairies. And so, you better hide from old Reynard. Tell you what, you can hide in my churn." Now, Fairy Jip, he wasn't the sharpest elf in the toadstool, and so he fell for this. And he went into the churn, and she caught him good and proper this time. She screwed it down nice and tight. Then she took that churn, with some difficulty I may add, because have you ever tried to carry a churn back with a struggling elf inside? I have. It's not easy. Back to her hag shack. There, she got the elf inside to her kitchen, and there her daughter awaited, because even her wardship had known love when she had been a comely maid, even if now she was a bit of a warty hag. But she had known love once, and so she had a daughter. Her daughter wasn't the brightest pin in the pincushion. But her mother tried to explain to her very carefully what to do. She said, "Look after the churn. Be careful. Keep an eye on him. He's a tricky fellow. What you need to do, my sweet daughter dear, is when he sticks his head out, chop it off. Okay, chop it off. And then he'll be ready for the pot." Okay, so remember that she had to chop off his head. While Witch One Eye went off to make ready with her celebrity chef ingredients and her designer kitchen implements, she clattered around in the kitchen, singing to herself in a tuneless manner, thinking about the nice elf food dinner she was going to have later, as you might later from the cafe over the road there. While she was doing this, Fairy Jip, he had an idea. He knew, he'd heard what Witch One Eye had said, and he suggested to her daughter that he did not know how to stick his head out. And perhaps if she showed him how to stick his head out, then he would be happy to oblige her, stick his head out so that she could chop it off. Now, that daughter was not, very bright, and so she obliged. She got into the churn herself, stuck her head out and say, "Fairy Jip, this is exactly how you need to stick your head out so I can chop it off." And you never guessed what happened then. Chop! She had her head chopped off, and that was how she lost her maiden head, apparently. And that cheeky fairy Jip, he flitted away, he fluttered away from that hag shack, good and proper. He got away from Witch One Eye, who was deprived of her elf foods. But, he thought he'd better teach her a lesson. He'd teach her a lesson, and so he got himself a pebble. Now, this bit of the story is a bit mean, but this is how fairy stories are. He got a nice big rock. He went back to the hag shack. He hid up in a chimney. Before he did that, he made sure the body of the daughter was hidden in a churn, a very important detail. He stuck the head in there as well, had to wedge it in. It sort of squelched and squished a bit as he rammed it in to the churn. I don't know if you ever had to try to squeeze a head into a churn before, but it's quite a tricky thing to do. It's the wrong kind of shape, really. It's okay, it's all special effects. But he'd done this, and then he hid up the chimney with the rock. Witch One Eye came in with her gleaming designer kitchen implements and her celebrity chef ingredients. She was ready. She was ready at last. And so she went to the churn. She emptied out the churn, wondering where her daughter was. And lo and behold, there she was, in pieces. She wasn't very happy, I can tell you. She was furious, and this time smoke poured out of every orifice imaginable. But then she heard a sound from up the chimney. She heard a sound up the chimney. It was Fairy Jip having a bit of a laugh to himself up the chimney. And so fuming, she stuck her. Just you wait, Fairy Jip. I'm going to teach you a lesson. Good and proper. Well, just then, Fairy Jip, he had his rock and he dropped it down the chimney, and splash, splat, plop. Her other eye was lost. Dropped into the pot, actually. And so she was blinded, which isn't very nice, but that's what happens in stories like this. She staggered around. I'll spare you the gory details. But basically, Fairy Jip, he then flitted for good. He left. And you know what? He never got his cherries.